Hey, it's Millie, and welcome to the Generalist World podcast. This is the podcast for people who have never fit into a box at work, and to be honest, we don't really want to. Every week, I chat with a new member of Generalist World, and I share their stories, their philosophies, their frameworks of how they are living their life and creating work that actually aligns with their generalist skill set. So if you are someone who has had a non-linear, squiggly career, this is the podcast for you. Ellie, welcome to the Generalist World pod.
Hi, Minnie. I'm so pleased to be here. Yeah, I've got it's just awesome.
Okay, let's set the scene for people because you have had a wonderfully squiggly, diverse career.
Yes.
How do you explain what your career shape has been?
Just making it up as I go along. And it's always really special for me to come back to Hackney because this is my first kind of proper job where I was getting paid a salary. It wasn't a kind of some cash in an envelope at the end of the day when I was 13, which was like what it was like in the 90s, was in Hackney. So when I first started off in the police, it was here, but it was like 22 years ago.
Wow.
So it's always lovely coming back and seeing how, things have changed. It's super different. It's a really special place.
Okay, so let's paint an arc for people. 22 years ago, you were here. So we could say we've come full circle.
Yeah.
You were here, and talk us through kind of what that arc has looked like to where you are today.
Yeah, so I think, and I've only just really sort of started to make sense of it myself because it was particularly, I was quite young when I had kids. So I was like 30. First bit of my career is like the first 10 years, like literally just having fun in London, earning money, doing interesting things, public servant. Mm-hmm. I was a police officer, I was a detective, mainly did domestic abuse investigation, something I'm still super passionate about. Was kind of getting promoted and stuff like that. But then kind of had kids when I was 30. So then the next 10 years, like 30 to 40, really was just trying to keep my hand in and doing the next thing that made sense at the time for everything else that kind of like managing. But then over that sort of 10-year period, like threads emerging of some of the things that actually I've always been interested in and I really love, things like technology, public service, team performance and learning and how teams learn and how they work. And that's kind of been a bit of a thread. So did like 12 years in the police. Then I learned you could just change jobs. And then I changed jobs like every 2.5 years. And I worked in a legal tech startup. And then I worked in a trade association with retirement villages, which was amazing. And they were I still really lovely community. Then I ran a business that I now co-own. Then I went into refugee resettlement, and then I became a swimming teacher. And then, literally no rhyme or reason. And literally just trying to, particularly around having kids, just okay, what's the next thing that I can do that means that we can pay the bills and I can manage pickups and I can do this and I'm not, working 80 hours a week and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So no plan but now, at 45, it kind of looks like it might be, there's a sense of...
There's that great quote, and it's you can only connect the dots looking backwards. And so when you're in it, maybe it seems like there's no rhyme or reason, but perhaps when you look back, you've mentioned some of the things you did. What were some of the underlying themes that have followed you through the last, say, 20 years?
I think going into a team and then working out how that team is working together, what they might be missing, both all as people and as a team, including resources or access to things or support or, a better kind of way of thinking about themselves or kind of aspiration or things like that. And whatever sector, whether it was domestic abuse teams or events teams or, training teams, anything, software development teams I've managed, working out what that team needs in that specific combination of people in their context and then trying to find a way to make that happen. But and sometimes that might, that's a 2-year job or a 6-month job or something like that. But like, that's what I've done throughout. And
that's a golden thread. And has there ever been a time when you've been like tempted to specialize, to be like, actually, I'm going to go deep in something?
No, and this is why I love Generalist World so much, because for such the longest time, and this was like something that, you know, particularly like I'm like the tail end of Gen X and like, you know, early millennial stuff. Like we were just told, if you can't, you know, who are you? You know, you've got to have a specialism. You've got to kind of like do things and then become known for that particular thing. And I was like, yeah, I can do loads of different things. And that was part of the reason I left policing, because it was like, came out of uni, went straight into policing pretty much. Then it was like 12 years. And I was like, this is all I've done. But there's a whole world out there. And I think particularly having kids when I was a bit younger and then being kind of like, it's actually quite hard to travel with kids. And, you know, I know people do it. We had twins. So it was like, it was a bit of a mission. So we didn't really, but I found a way to travel and explore the world was through different roles, through different sectors, different teams. And so it was like, I had this exploration. And a lot of those people I've kind of like carried with me or like stayed in touch. So I've got this kind of like really eclectic network of people that have got like super different roles that actually I've known for quite a long time now, that it's, it's really special. I feel super lucky.
It's also like, for me, it's more interesting, right? It's like, because you then do like, who wouldn't want to have like an eclectic network of people that you can call in?
Yeah, completely. And I think that's also one of the things that is just wonderful about Generalist World, because there's people from all over the globe, people doing all kinds of different things, people at every different stage of their careers. Everybody's curious, everybody's like open and willing to share and interested in things. And yeah, it's super special.
It is biased, but I agree. How do you describe how you spend your days now to someone? So if you were to meet someone, you know, we're at Ramen Space, shout out Charlie. If you were to meet someone out there right now and they're like, oh, you're Ellie, what do you get up to? How do you spend your work days?
I was thinking about that before. So the call that I just had before I jumped on. So I work with obviously got a training company that I co-own, but then I'm also sort of like a fractional COO for an AI startup in like the criminal justice space. And so I just had a call with a really fascinating academic in forensic speech about collaborating. And then a call that I've got later is I did a facilitation with a charitable board last week about their strategic direction and where they want to go. And I'm just having like a wash-up call with their chair later on. And but it's all like different things. I'm like a treasurer for one charity and one sports organisation. So I do kind of some of that stuff as well that I really love. Part of me sometimes is a bit like, it would be really nice if I had a week that was like, just looked the same and that I didn't have to kind of like think about what I was going to do for that week. But then, and the community were really lovely, but I broke my knee in February and then every week did look the same. And I was like,
I hate it.
It's not, I was like, oh God. Yeah. So, you know, when you feel like you're sort of missing something, it'd be like, it's something just a little bit predictable. Then it's like, actually, no, there's a reason that I like things to be unpredictable and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you broke your knee and you did a pretty crazy challenge recently, right?
A swim. Yeah, well, my long-term career aspirations is to be like a swim guide for kind of like long distance swims. So very long term, I'm trying to build my CV of long swims, because it's actually loads of people want to do that now. It's really hard to get those gigs. You've got to be a power boat driver. You've got to be a beach lifeguard. You need to. So I'm a swimming teacher, but like little kids, absolutely adorable. But yeah, I had a goal that I'd signed up to this swim before I broke my knee, and it was really touch and go whether I'd be able to do it. So I came off my crutches for like 10 days, and then I just managed to get like the medical sign off.
10 days, Ellie?
Yeah, so it was 10 days between them saying, yeah, you can try and walk again. And then it was amazing. It's called, and a shout out to the team, it's called the Défi de Monte Cristo. And it's the Monte Cristo Island off the coast of Marseille, and you kind of get a boat to the island, then you have to swim off the island, like escaping like the Count, and then you swam down the coast of Marseille. So we did like 6 kilometers. But I did it with my swimming mentor, who's this amazing woman who is like 70. I was like just about managing to keep up with her.
Wow.
But yeah, she's incredible.
I need to ask a question which I'm sure is on everyone's mind, and that is like, how are you doing all this? You just said you have like 3 different, maybe 4 different roles, and roles not, some might be on the board, plus you've got twins, plus you're doing these like massive swimming challenges. Do you feel really busy, or how are you balancing all this?
Yeah, like quite busy, but then also, and I think we talked about it in when I did it in the notes, like my husband and I have always had like an approach where everything that we do is kind of like has got kind of equal weight, or kind of like genuinely lived egalitarianism is this phrase that a wonderful academic called Zoe Young put when we were kind of like, I was her kind of lab brat when she was doing her PhD, and she was kind of a bit like, how do you guys organise your life, and what is the impact on women on having kids, and what do career trajectories look, and things like that. And it helped, I think, with me and my husband, that we were kind of like, he was in the police as well, and we were kind of like, things were roughly equal. We're roughly about the same age, earning roughly about the same amount of money. So it was very easy to kind of like set up our life together that started off on a really equal kind of footing, but we just kind of like really actively tried to maintain that. And there's been periods where, he's kind of gone forward in his career for like a couple of years, then I would do that. And then it's like kind of like seesaw that over a long period of time has stayed kind of equal. So
yeah, so partnership, having support, you can't do all this alone.
Yeah. And not picking up all of the load of all that emotional stuff that doesn't allow you to create space to do the cool stuff like that you want to do, because you're always just holding everything else. So yeah. I think that's super important.
I love this for you.
Yeah.
And so you are, 2 decades into your career, and I wonder if you look
2.5.
2.5.
Yeah.
And with that comes an immense amount of experience, knowledge, wisdom. And I'm curious, how, at a high level, how do you see kind of your, or careers in general, the world of work now versus when you started? How much has it shifted?
So it's so different. I think that people of my age and generation potentially take some of the luck and like lucky context that we were handed, and then potentially attribute that to our talent or skill or hard work. And it's like, I fundamentally believe we just had it a lot easier. Things were very different. Like, I remember when I got to university, I was like, well, I've got into a really good university. As long as I get a 2-1 and meet lots of people, I'm fine. Like, there was never a question about, will I be able to get a job? It was just,
sure.
And then we were super lucky that we were actually like established in careers before the 2008 crash. And then it's just, none of that timing, none of that location, I think, was not, not down to me. We were just lucky, like incredibly lucky. My university fees were £900 a year.
Wow.
And I got a loan, but I spent it traveling. And then, and the interest rate was like really low. Wow. Whereas it's just so different. And I see such incredible creativity and drive and just such innovation in what young people do, in the community as well. And I'm just like, oh my God, I was barely functioning. And like for ages and ages. Yeah, it was, so but then I was also one of those kind of like weird 90s kids that like had a sublet paper round when I was like 11. So I've always worked. But then it was kind of, I realised that one of my biggest fears was, what if, and it's probably driven a bit of burnout over something. So it's like, what if people stop giving me work to do? Like, what happens? And I was a bit like, well, that hasn't happened in 25 years. And maybe if that's my biggest fear, why don't I just step into that
Oof.
and see what happens, and not just go into the next job, but see what I can create. And so I did that about 2.5 years ago. And now that was actually the door that kind of let me think, actually, kids are a bit older. What do I want to do? What can I do? What are the things that only I can do that are like, you know, particularly useful? I'd always been driven by kind of thinking, what am I doing that is making a better difference in the world or improving things? But then also I'd in a sort of slightly kind of like hair shirt type way, not really ever said to myself, well, what are the things that you don't want to do? What are the things that actually you really enjoy? Like, I love tinkering with technology, and it is such an interesting time to be involved in that kind of things. But I did maths A-level, but I was very much where people were a bit like, oh, you're good at languages, you should do humanities. I was just as good at science. I was just, you know, but it was like, oh, right, yeah, no, you're really good at languages. Off you go. Yeah. Do that. And I like very much went down. But now it's like, you can just get stuck in. And so I'm like building all these things and like trying them out, and then, but not just holding it lightly. Like some stuff's like a flop, or some stuff's like, oh, actually, that's pretty cool. Or what can I build, or what can I play with? And yeah, it's a really exciting time. And I do worry about particularly some women the same age as me, who, because they're carrying this cognitive load of their household and older parents and younger kids and all of that, and a job that doesn't necessarily let them learn, that then, you know, not able to spend that time tinkering or going, oh, what if I just plug that in with that? And what if I, you know, there's some of the things that you've made in terms of like, what if I could let me just see.
Tinker.
Yeah.
Right? And have the space to tinker.
Yeah.
I love that phrasing of like, hold it lightly. It's kind of another way of saying like these tiny experiments.
Yeah, completely. I love that.
I also am such a fan of taking space to ask the question, what don't I want?
Yeah.
And I need constant reminders of that. Like, my husband and I are both yes people. We are like moth to a flame when it comes to like ideas and like getting things going. And our favorite question, no, that's not true. It's probably our least favorite question, but it's a necessary question, is why shouldn't we do this?
Yeah.
Why should we not do this?
Yeah.
And it's great because it stops us in our tracks and goes, there is always reasons why not. So I have a bias to look for the yes and the possibility.
Put another thing on.
Stoke that fire, let's go. So I wonder, so how old are your kids?
They are 14 now.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what are you advising them in how to...
Oh, that's really interesting. Like, this probably sounds quite bad, but I'm trying not to. Because I definitely, I always had quite like an internal drive myself. So my parents didn't really like tell me to do anything. The first time they ever told me to do something or not to do something was when I was joining the police, and they were like, you don't have to do this.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but it wasn't about like safety or anything. They were like very left leaning, and they were like, okay. So they approved when I started doing like domestic abuse investigation mainly. My mum was a social worker, but what I hope for them is like, it took me literally like 2 decades to work out who I was. Like, I'd much rather they didn't do particularly well in their exams, but they had such a strong sense of who they were. And I think that's where Generalist world is amazing, because, and I'm just in awe of the people there in the community who are like, no, I've actually spent some time thinking about who I am, what I can do, the difference I want to make in the world, how I want my life to be. Whereas for ages I was just like, get promoted, right, do it, like, you know, tick the boxes, do the next thing, don't change jobs because, you know, people will think you're flighty, don't have other, you know. And then I was just like, why? And it's much better. So the only thing I hope for them is that they don't spend 20 years trying to work out and then going, oh, actually, you can just do stuff.
You can just do things.
I think nobody cares, and nobody's actually watching.
Everyone's worried about their own little internal lives. Like, I think, you know, when the world is predictable as much as it could be, and it is, you know, you can see the linear path where it's predictable and it's fairly stable, which it sounds like it was more so the world of work that you kind of grew up in. It makes total sense that specialisation makes sense, right? It's like, it's 100%. Predictable. There's less ambiguity, and it's like you do this and this is the outcome.
Yeah.
You get this on your A levels, that's going to be the result. Where when the world is unpredictable and when the world is in a state of ambiguity and like wonkiness, maybe we could describe it as that at the moment, that's where you have to be adaptable.
Yeah.
You have to be adaptable. And I think that's where generalists are going to thrive.
Completely.
Talk to me about, I'm just going to say two words. Hostage negotiation.
Yeah. That's my big regret about leaving the police.
Interesting.
Because I was a detective inspector, and to be a hostage negotiator, you need to be a DI. And I went through all the selection, and it was a really fun selection process. So it was like a live situation in a caravan on a car park somewhere in North London.
In a caravan? Okay.
Yeah. And so somebody was there, and so they were like, really, it was a scenario-based thing, but it was extremely realistic. And you didn't know anything beforehand. They would just like go in that caravan.
What?
And then it was like basically talking to somebody, and kind of, I was a family liaison officer as well, which is about working with families who've been affected by murder or manslaughter. Wow. So it was basically just then talking to the person and trying to, normally it's like, what if, they're in crisis basically. But I was at the point where they were like, yeah, you're on the course, and it's like a national course that, people spend their entire careers like trying to do it. And then, at the same time, I was doing disclosure for a massive public inquiry. There was a tech firm that we were working with, and they were just like, one of the things that I'm still like policing adjacent, but more on the technology side of things. And one of the things that is a real like passion of mine is that public sector jobs should have really good tech, but they don't. And because the systems are kind of locked down, I was looking at what the startup firm that were working with us, and I was just like, oh my God, they were on like Slack. This was like 2016. I was like, what is this magic thing? And their computers are doing all these things, and oh my God, like I don't know what any of this stuff is, and how am I going to be employed when I'm 50 or be able to make a living when I'm 50 if I don't start learning some of this stuff? So I was like, I think I'm just going to jump. And they were like, I was like, hey, do you want to give me a job? And they were like, yeah.
No
so
way.
Then I went, and I'm still in touch with them now, and they're lovely. And so I then went and worked for them for like 2.5 years. It was brilliant.
Wow.
But it was like, I was basically like shiny laptops. I was like, they look like they're really fast.
Yeah.
And you can find cool stuff and just put it on your machine and then start using it. And
wow.
But so I never became a hostage negotiator.
And like, before they took you into this caravan in North London, what is the training, or how do they teach you how to negotiate? Or is that
no, this was just to see whether you had like the raw ingredients. But at that point, I'd already been a police officer for 9 years or something. So that you've got some experience of like turning up at stuff and dealing with what's in front of you.
And what ways has being a police officer influenced, or how do you use it today, if at all? Are there skills that have followed through?
One of the things that police officers are really, really good at doing is just like a real bias to action. And because you're just constantly, particularly as a response officer, which is what I was when I was like first in Hackney, you're being told to go somewhere, something bad is happening there, somebody needs help, there's some problem, you start dealing with it, like, because you can't just stand and look at it for a while and go, oh, maybe somebody needs to stop this happening or do something. And then one of the things that I've learned in the like 10 years since I've not been a police officer is that actually, having a look at what's going on, just getting stuck in and starting doing things straight away is not always a good idea. There's ways of like understanding more how people are feeling about things, maybe looking at what's going on a bit deeper, that kind of stuff. But one of the things that I mainly take away from being a police officer is just like how much I love London. And
what do you love?
and the kind of like the fabric of the city and all the stories and how the places all connect and how they change over time. And I just love that stuff.
And if you could go back and whisper in Ellie's ear 10 years ago, so you've just left the police and now you know all the stuff that you know now, and you're going to go back and you're going to whisper something in Ellie's ear, what might it be?
Interesting. Yeah, I think just carry on. You're all right, just keep going. Because it's hard, and I know you've kind of talked about that sort of, family type journey, but it's, there are years I don't think I can actually remember of we are doing the same thing. It's right, get everybody up, get them to school. It's just you're doing this,
you're in it.
And you don't. So I think that's also part of the reason where it's it's lovely to be able to have kind of different shaped weeks and all different things on, because for a lot of the period it's just right, okay, you're being governed by the school terms, times, this is that. Those are all the jobs.
It
It's
makes
quite
total
predictable.
sense. And is there anything that you really wish you had a chance to talk about while you've got the mic? Any message, idea, question, whatever it might be, while you've got people listening?
I think there's I'm fascinated by, I think, your business model and your business sense and your way of flipping the script on membership model and stuff like that. I just find it fascinating. And so not really me and the mic. It's I want to ask you questions about kind of what's almost the unorthodoxy of the lifetime membership model. How did you come up with that? And then how are you feeling about it now? And because from my point of view, I just think it's a stroke of genius. But I'd love to hear you talk about it.
Well, thank you. When at a high level, when I look back at making that shift, it's the greatest thing I've ever done for GW. And the big difference being, we are not a SaaS, we are not an agency, we are a community. And I think the worst part, when I think of pre-lifetime, when we were having this kind of annual membership, the worst part of my job is someone might be hey, I've just been laid off. Hey, my husband's sick and I don't have healthcare in the US and I can't afford my membership. And there was this real tension where I'm it's when people needed us most that I would be and I couldn't do it, where I'd be oh, well, sorry, you're on your own. And I'm that's not really what a community is. And I think one of the biggest challenges of GW has been finding this balance of making something sustainable, because ultimately if I don't do that, there is no community and everyone loses.
It's still a business.
So I've always been very transparent that, okay, I want this to exist. I need this to exist in 10 years time, 15 years time. It is, when I meet people specifically in person, I realize how much of a lifeline it's become for people. And I'm okay, we must find a way to make this exist. So to do that, we have to be able to pay our team, pay ourselves, live a decent life. And whilst also having the impact and keeping things not growing too fast, because if you grow too fast, you're going to lose the culture of what you have at the beginning. So that has been walking a tightrope. Although I think finally we're 4 years in, we've figured it out to a point where we're profitable, we can relax, our head is above water. I can now start to invest back into...
the greenhouse, that is amazing.
The greenhouse, for anyone that doesn't know, I'm now putting a percentage of our revenue into a greenhouse pot. And then we've actually just run our first one where people from the community can basically pitch and apply for this funding. And there's no strings attached. It's just there's no equity or anything like that. It's just this is just a grant to do something, because I believe that generalists can change the world. And let me give you a little bit of seed funding. The first one was £500 per project, and we funded 4 projects. And even the project, I was wow, so diverse in, we had someone in Mansi in the US who was creating this vending machine of handmade, thoughtful art that people can just go and like, instead of getting like, a chocolate bar, they're going to get something that someone has made. We've got someone in South Africa who wants to make local LLMs for rural schools.
Yeah, amazing.
What? Even those two examples of the difference. And so I'm really excited about, we've kind of got GW to this beautiful point where heads above water. We're not in that survival mode where you're like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to pay rent. Like, things are good. And now I can look to the next phase, which is like, okay, how do we make this even more collective and even more positive sum?
Amazing. I just love it. I think it's fantastic.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, this has been an absolute delight.
Oh, it's been great.
We will be adding all of your links into the show notes so that people can get in touch with you. And
thanks, Millie.
Really appreciate all your efforts, all your contributions.
Yeah. No, it's awesome. Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Ellie.